welcome to the Rock My Age podcast. And this time we are talking about winter wellness, very much around our emotional well-being. And I'm really pleased to be joined once again by our seasonal yoga, tai chi and qigong guru, Sue Wood. Welcome, Sue.
Welcome
again. Welcome again. Your
well,
second.
It's really nice to be invited along.
Brilliant. So we are focusing this month, certainly with pre-Christmas, with the fact that lots of us don't even know what we're going to be doing at Christmas, maybe a lot of anxiety around, and how we can look to the practice of seasonal living, yoga, qigong, and tai chi, all these kind of really useful tools we've got to boost our well-being at this time of year. So let's start with some tips from you.
Okay, well, I think the main thing, as having sort of designed this whole practice around seasonal living, the qigong, the tai chi, the yoga, is the idea that whatever is happening in nature is we are reflected. So somebody asked me yesterday, what is this idea of a microcosm and a macrocosm? And the microcosm is that we are intrinsically linked to what is going on in nature, what is going on in the seasons. And I think it's that reassuringness that actually what is happening in society, what we're being asked to do, what's coming up as issues to deal with, are all reflected in the seasons. And if we know that, there's sometimes a sort of good feeling, actually, things are happening, issues are coming up, when they should, because that's a natural time in nature. So
talk about the issues that come up. Can you give us an example so we can understand that a bit better?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, today we were talking about, they were talking about on breakfast television, they were talking about loneliness.
Yeah.
And also this, this worry about Christmas and that building up of around that Christmas time. Now, if you think, for example, of within the sort of traditional medicine, you're talking about autumn. It's the trees are letting go of their leaves, and it's a natural time of shedding. It's a natural time of reprioritizing, getting our ducks in a row. It's a time of, if you like, also letting go of our rubbish, letting go of things that no longer serve us. But also the idea is that nature is closing in, it's drawing in, it's a natural, the sap is going back into the trees, going down into the roots. And without that happening, the tree is not going to survive the next year. And so, this idea of that energy contracting. Now, when we look at things seasonally, the idea is to balance us in that season. So naturally, we're going to think of things that are superfluous. We're going to think of letting go of stuff. We're going to think of the things that we value because it's the metal element, thinking of family, reprioritizing what we're doing with our money, drawing, the season and the year is coming to a natural conclusion, and all of these things. So the idea is that sometimes we can be too much in that energy. We can then sort of isolate, become lonely, become, and what we need with that energy, where we're becoming so hard, so contracted, we need a bit of the fire energy of summer just to, melt us a little bit, doing things that we enjoy, being around, making sure that we're social, even if it's just on Zoom, making sure we're reaching out to those around us and so on. Whereas if people are, not closing in enough, they're sort of feeling they're half out there, they're hanging on to this external life, and they're, not closing in enough. And it is a natural time. Therefore, they're not nurturing themselves. They're not looking after themselves. And actually, when we talk about the autumn season, it's more important that we are going into that self-care, that we're naturally starting to look after ourselves, doing things that make us feel good, doing things just for ourselves, because our lives have been so externalized that we actually aren't able to nurture ourselves. We're looking for outside to nurture. And I think, as regards to the COVID, it's really shone a light on our mental health, our emotional health, and the need for us to develop a regime where we're not reliant on a health service to look after us, but we're eating seasonally, doing things that nurture our well-being, our mental health. We're dealing with the issues of feeling lonely. In fact, funnily enough, it was saying that there was an elderly gentleman on the television this morning, and he was feeling hugely lonely. And then what he did was he joined this thing where now he phones about 6 people every day. And immediately he's reaching out. So what had happened to him was he was grieving. He was going through a natural process of grief, having lost his wife, having felt alone. And then you realize how that autumn energy has gone too much.
Yeah.
And so just by shifting that attention, it stopped it going hugely contracted, and he reached out to other people.
So just to catch that, I mean, this idea that nature doesn't like extremes, it always kind of pulls back to the middle.
Yeah.
Are you saying that really kind of emotionally, that's our idea, to understand what the energy of each season is, and then making sure that we're kind of going along with that energy, but not too far? So making sure that we're kind of going for that kind of midpoint the whole time.
Yes, because, if you think of the seasonal energy, and you think that, the lungs and the large intestine particularly resonate with this season. So, the liver, like,
Susie, just for a moment, because people who don't understand seasonal kind of living, so there's certain intestines that are linked to certain seasons. Is that right?
Yeah. And so each, for example, each season there is a main organ and its sidekick that relate to a particular season. So naturally,
and this would be from Chinese medicine, the idea from Chinese medicine, is that right?
Yes, it comes actually from Daoism. Right. And there's a lot of understanding, the root of cyclical changes, as well as the circadian rhythm that links in to the seasons of the year. And Daoism is how, we look at what's going on in nature, and that naturally is what's going on in ourselves. But with each season, an organ will resonate to that season. So the heart links to summer and fire. Late summer, you're slowing down, so that links to your digestive, your immune systems. And then you go into this season, which is very much lungs and large intestine. So the idea of that organ is it takes in, but it also lets go. It processes the rubbish. And just to give a little understanding, is one of the things that we do, for example, in the West, is we overbreathe. We try and get that oxygen in, and oxygen's healthy and oxygen's the way to go. So we quicken our breath. And actually, in order to get good oxygen, you have to build up a level of carbon dioxide, a level of rubbish that pulls that oxygen into your body. So unless you really exhale, which is why, for example, pranayama and breathing techniques in India,
pranayama being those deep yogic kind of
idea of breathing, and different breathing techniques to get different energetic results in your body. And there they will say, lengthen the exhalation, hold the exhalation. And then when you've built up that level of carbon dioxide, seemingly rubbish, is you pull by osmosis that oxygen in your body. So all of the animals that live longest and have less anxiousness and stress are the ones that breathe slowly.
How interesting. That's so fascinating.
So a really, really simple way of doing it is to breathe in for 5, out for 5, and then do that 5 times. And what that does is it slows the cycle down and brings you back to balance.
Thing to do as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, just going back to the seasonal way of living, because and I've just been talking to some kind of friends about this, and one of the things that's come back is, well, I live in the middle of a city in a high-rise block. I can hardly see a tree sometimes, and feeling really divorced from the seasons. In you know, we've got artificial light, we're sitting at computers all the time. So I think sometimes it's quite hard for people to understand how they can live more in tune with the seasons. But also reading about the research about that there's so much more mental health problems and more sleeplessness. People not sleeping is a huge epidemic. So how can, you know, if you live in the middle of a countryside, fantastic, see all the seasons, but these city dwellers, how can they kind of get more in touch with this way of living?
Well, I think, I think the most important thing, first of all, is, city dwellers, is actually to get outside
Yeah,
at some stage, maybe make a point of going out into the energy of, the fresh air, and get some natural light. And it's hugely important. And what they say is, even if it's just, a short time every day, which I think is a natural thing, why people are being, wanting to have a dog, that people are somehow drawn to having something that's going to make them get off that computer, go out and go for a walk,
yeah,
take them into nature. And, even if you find it really, really hard to do it for you, self-care, you've got a dog that actually needs to be taken out. And that's going to get you out into nature. And nature resonates at the same frequency as our human immune system, 7.8 hertz, round about that. So by going into nature, by picking up on the amount of light and blue light there is, and that, my passion, Debbie, hits the super chiasmic nuclei in your brain and then resets your body clock in tune with what's going on. And of course, you can imagine, if you're sitting in front of a computer all day, that light is going into your eyes, hitting the back of it, especially at night. The body clock, which is set by that super chiasmic nuclei, is being put out all the time. And the interesting thing about that is that when you have that, the clock goes out, everything goes out. Your release of hormones go out. You've got things happening at certain times of day. And I think perhaps on the site we need to put my little article on the body clock, telling you what kind of thing should be happening at what time of day. And interesting, you talking about sleep. One of the biggest problems with sleep is that the lungs, the strongest time for the lungs, and where the lungs deal with everything, is between 3 and 5 in the morning. And that there is a lot of sleep apnea going on and people with breathing problems. So if you don't breathe well, and you don't train yourself in the waking hours to breathe well, you don't amplify and slow down your breath, you're going to be more likely to suffer things like sleep apnea, where your sleep is disturbed and then your body goes into stress. And you don't get
and can be a really serious health problem. Yeah. Okay, so one other thing about the seasonal calendar, which sometimes I've always found a bit confusing, and read lots about the winter solstice, which was just such a magical thing to read. But this idea that actually we think winter starts, I'd say, beginning of November, but in the seasonal calendar it starts later. That's right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the idea that our ancestors lived more kind of closely, not saying that how we lived before was perfect, because we've got lots of kind of developments of modern life, but they did live in tune with the seasons. So things like the winter solstice, they realized it was a dark time of year, energy was low, so they got out with communities, and in some beliefs, they believed that kind of Christmas festivities could be more about that, if you believe that. So that idea of meeting in community around this time of year seems to me a really sensible thing, that we're not all stuck indoors. So tell me more about your understanding of the winter solstice and what that means.
Well, it's very interesting, because you have, the winter solstice leads on from, that time which we've just had of that energy, you know, of if you like, the end of one thing. And they say that the veil between this life and the next is really quite thin. And you know, so you've got all the sort of the evil spirits crossing over. And actually what that meant was that with the lungs and the large intestine, it's about you bringing in your energy into yourself, and you're literally breathing your environment, which is why the environment is so important for the lungs. And why at the moment it's okay, because COVID is an issue for the lungs, but actually this is when we need to breathe, you know, better. We need to do breathing practices. We need to exchange and eliminate. And you know, so where you've got Halloween, that thing where the veil is thinnest and it was seen as this awfulness, it's just a natural exchange. And the more you're, you know, the better your life, the more you'll pull in all that good stuff. So we need to look at that. And then you go from Halloween into the winter solstice. So naturally, the energy is closing in. So it's the full yin, it's that really winding down, where yin then at that moment of change becomes the yang, and the yang starts to pick up. And then you start to get that rising energy of spring and that natural. So it's a natural occurrence. And what I think us, particularly as women, need to remember is that there were a lot of ancient belief patterns. There was the, you know, which I always think I was a Kapha in a previous life. Then they worshiped nature. They held meetings in the woods and everything, and they really were aware of what's going on. Pagans, again, a lot of people were put to death for being witches, and actually all they were using herbs, using nature, using animals, understanding how animals hibernate, how they move, and working with that. And they were considered to be threatening because they were working with energy, which, you know, energy was considered to be quite scary. But when we actually think, actually naturally, if we can draw one thing to a conclusion, it's a time where we need to meditate, when we need to go in, where we need to be still, where we need to reevaluate. And it's a natural thing of doing things which really honor that aspect of ourselves, honoring that gathering of the yin and that lunar energy. And then the lunar energy changes with that sun energy, which is the yang, which is the rising of the yang. And I feel that it's a tremendous opportunity for us as women in this present climate, dare I say, to really reevaluate. You know, we're looking at, you know, our food, we're looking at the amount of gut bacteria, we're looking at all those internal things. And when I'm working with children, I often say that what seems to be really hard, what seems to be really challenging, we always think of the snake, and the snake needs to have rocks that are too close together for it to get through, in order for it to pull off its old skin and come out the other side.
Yeah, that imagery is just so powerful, isn't it?
Yes, and actually I think what's happening with COVID, it's challenging us each individually, and we are shedding a skin and really finding that new way.
So kind of reframing the whole thing about this is, and not being glib about people who are, you know, low and maybe depressed, but just trying to encourage people to think about kind of where the opportunity is in situations like this. And it's something you've taught me so much about, that there's always an opportunity. And also that idea of energy. And I just love, and this is kind of, been practicing yoga for a long time now, but your teachings and work on energy have so landed for me recently. So can you, and for me, I think a little while ago, I might have just rolled my eyes and thought, yeah, I can do the yoga, but not the energy bit. But I don't think that's right anymore. And so could you tell us a little bit more about and how you've stayed so well from a difficult start as well, as you've talked about before, by kind of thinking about life in an energetic way.
Well, first of all, I always say that, in a way, the cosmos is working for us. We are, the more we can create flexibility in our body, and the more we understand that actually all we are conductors of energy.
Yeah.
So we are actually, so the more flexible our body, the less tense and rigid and tight it is, the more we're able to conduct energy through us.
Yeah.
And in contacting that energy and understanding the natural seasons, the natural way, working with your own energy, understanding if your energy is too low, if it's too high, learning, techniques as we can through the Tai Chi and the Qigong to balance energy, learning to understand that there are natural cycles of energy, understanding the body clock, understanding the different organs. The more we can become our own guru, the more we connect. So making a real practice at this time of year, which is naturally a good time because it's easier to close in and withdraw and be still and meditate, even if it's a few minutes, by just meditating on the breath, watching the in-breath, watching the exhale, being able to slightly distance yourself. So you're observing, you're not the inhale or the exhale, you're just observing that phenomena, and you're the experiencer watching this. And the more you become that experiencer, then the more you can experience life and not be caught up in it, but thinking, actually, I'm having this experience. I am the experiencer. I'm able to conduct things through me. And the idea, with the Tai Chi is you use your opponent's strength against himself. So, if somebody pushes my shoulder here and I'm rigid, he can push me over. But if someone pushes me here and I ground and I soften, I'm really, giving back what he's giving me, and I'm using him to strengthen me. And I think, if I had one thing to say at this time of year, what's happening, coming up to Christmas, is looking at all these things that are happening, being the experience of them, truly living them, and using them to actually strengthen ourselves. All of this, and it is hard, there are terrible things happening, but using it as our own fertilizer. And actually, this is going to make me stronger, this is going to fertilize me, I'm going to come out the other side. And the idea is that this time of year is especially this time of year, Christmas, is a chance of refinement. It's a chance of thinking, actually, some of these challenges are refining us, because unless we're prepared to take that rough time, we're not going to grow out the other side with a level of compassion that if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't have.
And that compassion, I think, is so important to start with yourself as well, isn't it? And that's what you teach us all the time, that if you don't have compassion for yourself, it's really hard to then, be compassionate and to be engaged in the world, and starting from that point of not beating yourself up. And especially if you don't feel great at this time of year, if you're on your own and you're separated from family or don't have any family. But there's always hope, isn't there, Sue? There's always we can always improve our situations.
Yes, and everything that's happened to us is an experience, and we can use that experience to change how we are. Looking at our each individual system and thinking, actually, what's happened to me, how can I then make a difference?
So we've covered so much, and I can imagine thinking, I just want to know a little bit more about that. I need to go and do a bit of reading about that. So if something you've said has really touched somebody, where should they go now? I know you've got your fantastic book, Seasonal Yoga, where people can kind of understand better how to use yoga and work in a seasonal way with that. But are there any other resources that people could go to that you'd recommend?
Yes, I mean, I'm, for example, I'm starting in early January, I'm starting a seasonal Qigong and Tai Chi course, and
Yeah.
that's a day a month, and then they get all the online aspects so they can go away and practice it, learn about all the organs, learn about the pressure points, learning about energy,
Yeah.
and how to, change that. And I think that's,
Mm.
that's going to be really good, because it was very interesting in the Times, I think it was
Saw
yesterday,
it.
the day
Yeah.
before,
I was just
about,
going to talk to you
Tai
about this.
Chi being
Yeah.
this new thing. And
Yeah.
I think one of the different, what I want to try and explain to people is,
Yeah.
is we're going through a journey. So
Yeah.
it's not just I do this yoga pose, I do that yoga pose, but how do I get from one move to the next? And life is this journey.
Yeah.
And we realize that we are living a journey,
Yeah.
and being really in the moment. And I know Urquhart Tolle, he talks a lot about being in the present moment, experiencing it now.
Yeah.
And that's when the changes are made. We're living in the moment. And the one thing that does that is the breath, always coming back, because no two breaths are the same.
Yeah.
And using your breath as a bit of a monitor. You're understanding that your heart and your lungs share the same space in your chest. And the idea is that, when your heart's upset, your breathing will change. And it's your way of the body saying, do you know, I feel a bit stressed.
Yeah.
And give it the attention and the love it needs. Because, it is about, that old adage, put your own gas mask, or your own
oxygen mask. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
your own oxygen mask,
somebody else.
or
Yeah.
to save other people.
Yeah.
I think that's so true.
Yeah. Yeah.
More at this time of year than any other time of year, looking at things that inspire you, looking at things, that really get you, looking at podcasts, websites. But this is really what your site does. It inspires people to look further. So if anybody, wants to go on my website and ask me questions, I'll give them books and so on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's absolutely, and I think that's why Erica and I have wanted to set this up, is to kind of reach out to give that. And I know we are living proof, you are living proof of how life has been incredibly difficult, and how working with some of these things really does lead to better physical health, better mental health, and just gives you that kind of joy and hope in life again, which I think we can all lose at times. Life is hard sometimes and difficult things happen. So, but I think, well, sorry,
just to say, it's everything, when you look at things happening, is we've got the most amazing, National Health Service.
Yeah.
But what that's done is it's made us lazy.
Yes.
What this has done is, how do we stop overloading that system? Self-care.
Yeah. Yeah. So even thinking, kind of looking after myself, looking after my friends, my family, and then our community, and then where we live, and just thinking more carefully about everything.
Yeah.
So as usual, been absolutely fantastic. And I hope I'm sure there's some really useful things you've said that people can kind of practically take away, even if they haven't been practicing yoga or Tai Chi. My next journey is going to be in Tai Chi, because absolutely from that Times article, just so this is what I need now. Yoga will always be part of my life, but there's that kind of real energy superpower. I'm so excited. So I shall be signing up for your Tai Chi.
I'll send you. But one other thing I think, Debbie, most of all, if I want to say to people, is that actually things are happening how they should.
Yeah.
It is that natural season.
Yeah.
It is that, chance to reboot our immune systems.
Yeah.
And that can only be done with self-care, by thinking the right way, by feeling the right way. And, as a website, yours is amazing, because it's getting out there to bring people the information, not saying you have to do this.
Absolutely, just a choice of information. Here it is. Maybe something will help you, maybe something resonates with you, that helps you to live a better life and a happier life.
Yeah.
Sue, thank you so much. Really great to see you. And if I don't see you before Christmas, have a lovely, lovely Christmas.
Thank you.
And
it's a joy to be with you.
Thank you. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation today, and if you'd like to listen to more conversations with inspiring women, do look at our website, rockmyage.com, or register to have them delivered direct to your inbox. Until next time.